Citrus has a special place in my heart as one of the first romance animes to actually make me feel something. Obviously, today, I'm going to try to review it as objectively as possible, but keep that in mind. Citrus is not for the faint of heart. It contains themes of Yuri, no duh, incest, and sexual assault. With that disclaimer out of the way, let us begin. Citrus follows our protagonist Aihara Yuzu as she enrolls in her new school longing for love, never having had a boyfriend before. To her disappointment, however, her new school is an all-girls school, and all hope for romance seems lost. But that's not going to stop her, and you know it. That's why we're here, after all. She moves in with her new stepsister and embarks on a painful journey. With the premise established, let's begin the review. For lighthearted Yuri, Citrus gets a mere 2 out of 10. There is nothing light about this show, as the most serious show on the series so far. The show focuses on a will they won't they aspect rather than a slice of life after two people get together. As such, there is very little room for light and fluffy interactions. Instead, we go to the next category, Serious Yuri. Serious Yuri is probably going to get a solid 9 out of 10. This show is a lot more intense than the ones I've reviewed so far, and the developments are all serious, whether positive or otherwise. And what do I mean by otherwise? Well, for that, we'll need to dive into the pain category. And whoo boy, is there a lot of pain in this one. I think this will be our first 10 out of 10 in pain, and it's for good reason. This series does not pull its punches, and by that I mean sometimes watching it feels like you're actually getting punched in the gut. Watching this for the first time, I was not ready, but now I know if I rewatch it, it will have to be in bed so I can curl up into a ball and have the security of my blankets comfort me. Citrus puts the right amount of tension in the right places, well, mostly, and the conflicts don't feel arbitrary. This lets the watcher actually get invested in the conflict rather than getting frustrated at the author for even including it. Now, that last part sort of leaked into the plot category, which will receive a 6 out of 10. This show is really good for the first 7 or 8 episodes, and then you can start to tell where they ran out of those episodes. Because the last story arc feels a bit condensed, like things happened too quickly and they just couldn't fit it in. Now, when you're working with time constraints and an episode limit, I understand that finding a good place in the manga to end off on is hard. But I knocked Yuri for circumstances beyond their control as well, because even if you can't control the circumstances, they still affect the viewing experience, which I think is fair. After that is enjoyment. Enjoyment is going to really depend on who you are and your views on certain topics, but for me, I'm going to give this a 9 out of 10. Like I said, a special place in my heart. The character designs are pretty on point, the plot dragged me into it and eventually through it, and the next biggest thing for me is that they used incest quote-unquote correctly, if that even is a thing. I might sound a bit crazy, but hear me out. Think about other incest romance animes and how they utilize that aspect. What comes to mind for me is Eromanga Sensei. For the most part, it's just fan service to get the little sister character to say "Oni-chan" and in most cases, "Baka." But Citrus, however, uses their sibling relationship as an obstacle for the romance and a plot-relevant detail. You can see that they remove the pitfall of turning the little sister into a Baka Oni-chan machine by removing the older brother character altogether. What a genius! And that is where today's title comes in. Incest done right. You have an interesting dynamic between your characters, so use it. And it does, which is why, despite it being blatantly degenerate, I love this show all the same. In fact, you could say that this show is what sparked my Yuri addiction. For music, holy crap is this opening good. Doesn't need to grow on you, it's a banger from the very start, and the ending? Kind of forgettable, honestly. So, I'll give it an 8 out of 10 overall. No one votes anyways, but I'll still ask. 1x half, Koizuru Asteroid, Bloom Into You, Swap Swap, Flip Flappers, Mimi Mix, and Can't Defy the Lonely Girl. Like, subscribe, Flip Flappers, blah blah blah.